Open your cerebral cortex and shift your lobes into upper beta phase, because you are going to have Bitcoin knowledge transmitted directly into your vestibulocochlear. Your host at Bitcoin Knowledge is Trace Mayer, an early Bitcoin advocate since it cost $0.25, but this is not intended to be investment advice. A doctor of jurisprudence, but this is definitely not legal advice. And an investor in core cryptocurrency infrastructure, including Armory, BitPay, Kraken, and Nitagio, but this is not a recommendation of those services. Here, you get fed via direct mind download with pure and free Bitcoin knowledge.
Okay, welcome back to the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast. This is the annual review. 2016 is now in the history books, and boy, has it been kind of exciting. Sorry for getting this out a few days late. Anybody not watching the Bitcoin markets? I had a friend, he described that these sovereign markets, when you have a real, true free market, it's kind of like a dog on LSD. And that's what we've seen these first couple of days of 2017. And most people don't understand that they haven't seen a real sovereign market. Because markets, we don't have them anymore, just manipulations. Anyways, Bitcoin's as close as you're going to get. And it's quite fun. So anyways, what do we see in 2016? Well, we started the year at $430 a Bitcoin. We ended it at $960 a Bitcoin. So got to be kind of happy about that, as long as you've been long Bitcoin. The beginning of 2016, we saw the hernia. Mr. Hernia decided to sell all his Bitcoin by front-running the market and then make a big stink and leave the project. Maybe we can have more hernias happen because, if the price is going to more than double, this is great. We also saw Circle discontinue support for Bitcoin throughout the year. I actually really liked the Circle service, so it's unfortunate to see them kind of leave. It was actually really nice. What else did we have? We had the European Parliament discussed Bitcoin and digital currencies for the first time. We had the largest e-commerce site in South Africa, BitOrBuy. They announced Bitcoin integration. The Genesis mining guys, they created a fund for fully accredited investors to be able to invest in Bitcoin mining. MIT raised $900,000 for core development. And then Peter Todd, he's like, MIT is trying to implant with this chain anchor identity with wallets to impinge on privacy. So, you do got to kind of watch out for who the developers are, what their motives are, what they're building, because there's a lot of surreptitious stuff that can go on. Steam started accepting Bitcoin. I kind of mentioned that, they're not a geography like Europe or South Africa or Japan or whatnot, but they are a geography in terms of virtual worlds and video games. And getting people comfortable with using and buying stuff with Bitcoin, that opens the pipelines for speculation when the price starts to run. BitPay offered a debit card this year. Zug Switzerland accepted Bitcoin for government services. Unocoin, which is the largest exchange out of India, they partnered with MobiKwik, which has over 75,000 physical stores where you can buy Bitcoin. And so later when Modi declared any bill illegal, the $7.50 bill or the $15 bill is like a certain amount of rupees, made those illegal overnight. 86% of the money supply, India just turned towards Bitcoin kind of in a big way. A major loss of confidence. The Dow raised $130 million, shortly got hacked for $80 million. Go Ether. Japan passed a law for digital currency exchanges to register with the government. Bitfinex settled with the CFTC. Our British friends, they voted to leave the European Union, and Bitcoin was very much a safe haven asset during that time. Uber got their account shut down in Argentina, and Zappo came to the rescue, helping them integrate and accept Bitcoin. So that's kind of interesting. And then C-File, they're a major cloud provider. PayPal froze their accounts, and so they started accepting Bitcoin. So we're seeing the legacy system wield the payments infrastructure for political purposes, and that's driving more people into Bitcoin. So that's kind of exciting. The halvening had happened with absolutely no problem. Even before the halvening, I was talking about, how we're in the middle of this bull market, and it could be explosive to the upside, even, $3,000 Bitcoin. And it seems like the halvening is, it's having this effect, this decreased supply of saleable Bitcoin, and it's inching the price up. W3C Web Standards Working Group, they announced Bitcoin standards and payment standards, so that's exciting. The really big news out of the core developers was version 13.1. We now have 13.2 that's been released also, but both of these have SegWit functionality, so that's a huge deal. SegWit will lay the foundation for things like Lightning Network and whole new use cases. So, we really need to see SegWit activated. Shinhan, a major Korean bank, they announced Bitcoin remittance integration. The CME Group, they launched a Bitcoin price index. I think that could very much be a precursor to an ETF. You need to have stable pricing. The IRS, they issued summons to Coinbase for all of their user data, which is really kind of crazy. Coinbase has promised to fight it in court, so we'll see how that goes. A Japanese firm, Mitsui Sumitomo, they announced their first insurance product for Bitcoin exchanges. So, that would be helpful considering Bitfinex got hacked for over $70 million of Bitcoin. Gabi, which is a global advisors fund based out of Jersey, they got listed on the securities exchange. So that's kind of a big deal. And then it's not in 2016, but the SEC, they decided on January 4th that they're going to delay the decision on an ETF until March 11th. So anyways, full steam ahead. All these network effects are taking place. We're seeing massive Bitcoin growth. I've tried to go Europe, Africa, Asia, North America, South America, Australia. I've tried to cover a little bit of what's going on in all the areas. I get a little bit more in depth in the interviews I've done with CEOs of different companies all over the world that are also on the podcast. But in total, we're just seeing massive, massive growth in the virtual currency, digital currency industry, and in Bitcoin specifically. I was actually going and looking up debit cards, Bitcoin debit cards, and previously I knew of maybe 2 or 3 Bitcoin debit cards. And now there's tons of them out there. And we have over 150 exchanges, and we have thousands of Bitcoin companies and millions of users. And it's just all really, really exciting. 2017, I think, is going to be a really big year for Bitcoin growth, for Bitcoin development, for the Bitcoin price, for all of these things. And so, just kind of keep the head down, keep plugging away, acquire Bitcoins on a regular basis, dollar cost averaging in. In terms of a risk-adjusted return, I think that Bitcoin is even less risk with more potential upside now than at any time in its history, really. We've overcome so much as an industry. Think about it. We're 8 years old now. Bitcoin is. For the first about 2 years, nothing really went on at all. For the next year, Bitcoin ran from about $1 to $32 and then crashed to $2. That was the first time I started publicly talking about it. It was about a quarter. So, I've been in all of these up legs, and it's just we have so much fundamental strength now. We had over $500 million of volume in a single day, and that's just counting on exchange volume. So when this volatility kicks up, it's not like we're just dealing with one exchange like Mt. Gox, one exchange that fails, and causes so much pain and damage to the industry. We have over 150 exchanges now. Bitcoin truly trades 24/7 all across the world, many different jurisdictions, many different currencies. This is all incredibly exciting. In terms of volumes, it really trades like a large cap stock, and yet it's got a medium cap valuation. It's only 17 billion in terms of market cap. What I see in terms of its growth, though, if we look at the 200-day moving average, that filters out all the daily noise, and just look at the trend. When we had the first big bubble to $1,200, about 6 months into 6 months to 8 months into that up leg, Bitcoin was adding about $1 million a day to the 200-day moving average market cap. We're adding about $25 million a day to the 200-day moving average market cap right now. And the rate of change that we're adding it, we were adding about 0.7% in the previous up leg. We're adding it about 0.3% right now. So we're adding it, almost 40% the rate that we added during that other big up leg. And yet we're adding 25 times as much to the mass of the market cap. We also can look at the 200-day moving average of transaction fees paid in US dollars. And if you look at that, my goodness, if you do like an R-squared correlation coefficient between transaction fees in US dollars and market cap, they're very tightly correlated. And during the previous major run to $1,200, we were paying, the 200-day moving average of these fees was $10,000 a day. And then it retreated down to about $4,000 a day. Well, right now it's over $50,000 a day, and it's rising at about $800 a day. So, this 200-day moving average of transaction fees paid in dollars, that's if I had to pick just one single metric to give me the pulse of the Bitcoin project, it would be that. Why? Because those are hard costs that people pay to use the Bitcoin network. So it shows us how much value people think the Bitcoin network adds to their life because they're willing to pay for it. And so, seeing these fees go up in terms of US dollars, I think that's great. I think it's a really good thing because it shows us how much value Bitcoin really does add to society. And those fees are skyrocketing. Maybe SegWit will get activated, and then we'll see some of that fee pressure relent a little bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, if people we want to have lots of people waiting in line who are all willing to pay a lot of money to sit at the restaurant, and that's exactly what we're seeing with that. And so, in terms of the long-term trend, the price looks great, the fundamental usage of Bitcoin looks great, website traffic looks great, podcast traffic looks great. I mean, everything looks great with Bitcoin. Regulatory situation looks great. The SEC could very well approve two different Bitcoin ETFs, the SolidX ETF and the Winklevi ETF. Could approve them in March. It's going to be their final time to make a decision whether to approve or not. I think they're waiting to see this CME price index data for a few months go off without any problem. And, this is just going to be a banner year. It's going to be a huge, huge year, and it's really exciting to be part of it. So anyways, that kind of summarizes, that shows us across the world. I've cherry-picked some of the good news items from all over the place, just to show how global Bitcoin is, to show how much it's growing, and then capped it off with some of these price data metrics. And in terms of upside for this, previously, when we look at the current price divided by the 200-day moving average, that ratio's it's 12x, it's 8x in these different bull runs. So if we go to just 6x, we're looking at $4,000 Bitcoin, right, for this up leg. So who knows where this bull leg is going to top out at? But I mean, it could get explosive. We could see it happen really fast, both on the upside and on the downside. Early January 3rd, I think, someone on OKCoin was short Bitcoin, and they got liquidated out of their position for a $10 million loss. So don't short this thing. It better just sit on the sidelines. Don't get run over by it. But, we could see Bitcoin going up $100 a day, go down $100 a day. There's just going to be a ton of volatility because we're in a real sovereign market. And don't leave your Bitcoins on exchanges like Bitfinex. They get hacked. Or Mt. Gox. They get hacked. Don't leave them on places like Coinbase. Like, pull those private keys and have them yourself. Don't trust any of these exchanges or custodians or anything. Because if you don't have it, you don't own it. And you're in a slave relationship. Whoever holds the private keys, they're the master. As Andreas Antonopoulos talks about, this master-slave architecture with servers, with the network. Hold your own private keys. Learn how to do it. Feel comfortable doing it. If you haven't done it, that's your homework assignment for 2017. Because if there's one thing we know about Bitcoin, it's that people get really greedy with the private keys, and then their exchange gets hacked or they steal the Bitcoins, and you can't prove one way or the other what happened. And so just don't make a whole bunch of money on paper and then have your Bitcoins get stolen. Take them into your possession with the private keys. Use Bitcoin Armory, use a hardware wallet. There are tons of different options. And if you really want to be pro, on the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast website, there's a resources section. I got a ton of the products that I really like. But at the bottom, there's a laminator pouches, and like a survival box that's like waterproof and everything. Oh, and a GPS locator. You can create multi-sig addresses, fragmented backups in Armory. You can print it off, laminate it, bury it in these waterproof boxes with GPS coordinates. That's how you can be a pro securing your Bitcoin. If you have $100 worth of Bitcoin, you can put $100 of thought into securing it. But if you have more, you want to put more thought into securing it. So, that's the takeaway. Hold your own private keys, protect your Bitcoins, and buckle up, Buttercup, because this is going to be a major, major bull market in 2017. And so that's the recap of 2016. See you guys later.
Be sure to get a copy of the free Bitcoin Guide at freebitcoinguide.com. Got a question or suggestion? Record your voice at bitcoin.kn. Don't be shy. To help the show, share Bitcoin.kn with friends, post about it on Reddit, and otherwise spam the interwebs. Your iTunes comments and 5-star reviews are very important to us. Please continue tuning in to the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast, where we release interviews with the top people in the Bitcoin world. Now take some choline and let that Bitcoin knowledge consolidate.